From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I am Estefania Bravo. This is From the South. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says he is open to dialogue after the attempted coup d'etat against his government on Wednesday. Addressing the Supreme Court, he has also announced the Venezuelan embassy in the U.S. will close, this as response to the constant attacks from the Trump administration to this country. Maduro spoke at the Supreme Court one day after the president of the opposition-controlled National Assembly, Juan Guaidó, proclaimed himself interim president of the country.
That two Latin American governments have taken an initiative that I believe must be the road. The dialogue, diplomatic relation. The government of Mexico and the government of Uruguay have proposed to create an international initiative to promote a dialogue of the parties in Venezuela to seek a negotiation, to seek an agreement of national peace. I tell the government of Mexico and Uruguay that I agree with this diplomatic agreement for national dialogue in Venezuela. I am ready for dialogue, for understanding, for negotiation, for agreement. And I have decided to return the entire diplomatic and consular personnel and close the embassy and all consulates of the United States.
And opposition leader Juan Guaidó has been accused of violating the Constitution by proclaiming himself as Venezuela's new president. Meanwhile, the Chavista people have rejected Guaidó's self-proclamation and recognized once again Nicolas Maduro's presidency as the only legitimate one. Madeleine Garcia has the story.
Nosotros estamos en busca de la paz, no en busca de la guerra. Yankee, go home!
And the day was just beginning. The Chavista people's chanting encouraged others to spread peace among sisters and brothers.
We, the revolutionaries, do not hate anybody. Our heart and our soul is only full with love and with ideological visions. All we need is a free country, for all of us, because we are all human and we all have the right to live in the same territory.
As time passed, the Chavista people filled the streets to defend democracy, to defend their vote, and to protest against foreign interference. Then suddenly, Juan Guaidó illegally swore himself in as acting president.
I swear to formally take all the national executive's abilities as the new acting president of Venezuela.
Reactions came swiftly afterwards.
Nobody voted for this person. Nobody. They were invited to participate in last election and they didn't want to be there. How do they want to be an authority if they were not even elected? I voted for Maduro. My vote is for Maduro. Who voted for this guy? Who just swore? Nobody.
It's a terrible mistake what this kid is doing.
That's a joke for us. It's not legit. Our president is Nicolas Maduro Moros.
The president of the Supreme Court of Justice has already said that any act of contempt of the National Assembly is invalid.
President is not anybody who just wants to be it. It's who earns it, who fights and talks with the people, not a clown that shows his ass and tries to take the piss out of us.
The mobilization's final destination was the O'Leary Square, where the president of the National Assembly warned of the ongoing coup d'etat.
They have absolutely no shame in violating the Constitution that was approved by our people. They know that they can't do that. They're trying to do whatever they want. We, on the other hand, are committed to defending our Constitution.
This chapter of history was barely beginning. The people walked to the president's palace to meet the Venezuelan president, who called the U.S. interference an irresponsible act that only provoked violence between Venezuelan people.
As the constitutional president, I announced to all the free nations of the world that I swore to the Venezuelan people that I would respect the independence, the sovereignty, and the peace of this republic. And that's why I decided to break all diplomatic and political ties with the imperialist government of the United States. Get out of Venezuela. Enough with your interference.
And actions have consequences.
That's justice's duty. That's already a duty of the Venezuelan justice bodies to act according to the Venezuelan laws. That's already a matter of the justice to preserve the state, democratic order, and Venezuelan law.
The Chavista people will stay on the streets to raise their voices and to defend their president, Nicolas Maduro.
And meanwhile, the U.S. has requested that the UN Security Council holds an extraordinary meeting on Venezuela this Saturday. The Trump administration wants to pressure other nations to recognize self-proclaimed Juan Guaidó as the legitimate Venezuelan president. It is expected that the U.S. will also ask for new sanctions against the government of Maduro. The Trump administration is considering more sanctions that would specifically target the country's oil. U.S. officials are reportedly considering several measures, including restrictions on U.S. imports of Venezuelan oil or possibly even a full ban. But no final decision has been made. U.S. sanctions already are in place and have cost Venezuela billions of dollars.
We were planning on doing a really very...
And in Washington, the U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was interrupted by a protester at a meeting of the Organization of American States. The protester from NGO Code Pink accused the U.S. and its allies of supporting a coup in Venezuela. Pompeo was urging Latin American countries to support Guaidó. The situation in Venezuela has been the main topic of the discussion at the OAS. Despite the organization's Secretary General Luis Almagro is supporting the opposition, different country members are recognizing Venezuela's government.
This session is aimed at interfering in the domestic issues of Venezuela, something that goes against this organization, its nature and principles. This room has been transformed into a center for conspiracy against the sovereign nations of Latin America and the Caribbean.
And concerning international support continues to pour in from around the world. The Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan has expressed his support to the Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Erdogan says he believes Venezuelans will also continue to support the Bolivarian government. Turkey joins most of the countries in the world that recognize Maduro as the legitimate president of the Latin American country.
I don't approve when certain methods against the national will are used, and that is what happens here. It is impossible for us to approve this, and I believe that Maduro will overcome this troublesome period as he walks this path together with those who believe in him.
Russia, China, and the United Nations Secretary General have all continued to recognize the elected government in Venezuela. They have called for dialogue to resolve the confrontation in the country. On Wednesday, President Nicolas Maduro told supporters he was breaking off diplomatic relations with the United States. This as Washington and a number of its allies said they would recognize opposition member Juan Guaidó as interim president of Venezuela after he illegally swore himself in.
As a 13th, as we say in Venezuela.
And speaking at a press conference in Algeria, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov blamed the political instability in Venezuela on grave interference from the West.
The fact that the U.S. and a number of other countries, first of all from that region, instantly recognized the new self-proclaimed president speaks about their direct involvement in the orchestrated creation of a dual authority, which brings chaos and a serious political instability.
And the Caribbean nation of St. Lucia has not joined the rest of the Lima group in publicly declaring support for Venezuela's opposition leader. The country's foreign affairs minister has even reaffirmed St. Lucia's support for Venezuela in an earlier statement.
We continue to recognize Venezuela as a friend. We have called upon the government to recognize the principles of democracy. And this is not to say that we will not continue to encourage them to do that. The breaking of diplomatic relations is something that is considered on a case-by-case basis. We are not considering that at all. St. Lucia has had a long historical friendship with Venezuela, and the fact that you call upon a friend to do what is right doesn't mean that you intend to sever the friendship, doesn't mean that you cannot continue to engage in matters of mutual interest. But we're saying too that we do not support the principle of intervention. It's about non-intervention in the affairs, in the domestic affairs of states. All of the declarations we've signed, we've always made it very clear that this is a matter for the people of Venezuela to resolve, and we're calling on the government and opposition to resolve this matter.
Our correspondent Alison Kentish is in Castries and has those details.
2 weeks ago, St. Lucia joined 18 members of the Permanent Council of the Organization of American States, OAS, voting not to recognize the legitimacy of Nicolas Maduro's second term as president of Venezuela. But this week, the Caribbean nation was one of 3 members of the Lima Group, which held out on a joint statement recognizing Venezuela's opposition leader, Juan Guaido, as the legitimate president. Guyana and Mexico are the other 2 countries which did not endorse the opposition leader. Now, while it might seem like a strange move for St. Lucia, bearing in mind the OAS vote, a January 14th statement by St. Lucia's Minister for Foreign Affairs might help to shed some light on the situation. Sarah Flood-Bobra told members of the St. Lucia press that St. Lucia does not support the principle of intervention. She said it has always been about non-intervention in the domestic affairs of any country. She also added that St. Lucia has always made it clear that the people of Venezuela should resolve this matter without interference or without intervention. Mexico has also upheld the principle of non-intervention. Guyanese officials have not spoken out on that country's decision to hold out from signing the Lima Declaration, and after voting with the majority of the OAS Permanent Council not to recognize Nicolas Maduro as president. St. Lucia was the first country in the 15-member Caribbean Community CARICOM bloc to join the Lima Group. Alison Kentish in Castries, St. Lucia, reporting for Telesur English.
We thank Alison for that report. African political parties and social movements have condemned the aggression by the U.S. government and its allies against Venezuela. The Socialist Party of Zambia, the Communist Party of Swaziland, Tanzania Social Forum, and the United Food Allied Workers Union of Zimbabwe say the people of Venezuela should be allowed to determine their destiny without outside interference. We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. One of Brazil's few openly gay congressmen says he plans to leave the country because of mounting death threats against him. John Willis has also given up his seat in the Congress. Willis says he is often targeted by conservative groups on social media for advocating for LGBTI rights. His party colleague Marielle Franco was murdered last year. Pope Francis has regretted the difficulties the Latin American youth faces in their future during his visit to Panama. He especially regretted the, quote, plague of femicides and violence hitting the region.
Young people find themselves boxed in and lacking opportunities amid highly conflictual situations with no quick solution. Domestic violence, the killing of women, our continent is experiencing a plague in this regard. Armed gangs and criminals, drug trafficking, the sexual exploitation of minors and young people, and so on.
Pope Francis will formally open World Youth Day celebrations this Thursday. The event has drawn around 200,000 young people from around the world to Panama City, where the Pope is expected to defend Central American migrants and human rights. The pontiff will spend 5 days in the country, reaching out to young Catholics. Hundreds of Venezuelans have disembarked in Caracas as part of the government's return to the Homeland plan. 3 flights were commissioned from Ecuador after a wave of xenophobic attacks in the country. To this date, the return to the Homeland plan has helped over 9,000 people return to Venezuela from various Latin American countries, with more expected to arrive in the coming months. We heard their testimonies before they left Ecuador.
The day the tragedy occurred, the xenophobia started. I was attacked by a group of Ecuadorians when I was going back to work. They burned my clothes that were there. Me and some colleagues took refuge in a fruit store and they tried to enter, so we had to protect ourselves. And yesterday they returned. They had sticks, pipes, machetes, and we had to run away.
It's been a while since I'm trying to return, because we couldn't find a job here. So it's great that the president launched this program. It's very good for us.
In Brazil, Praia Grande near Sao Paulo has become a popular seaside destination for workers. During the summer season, its population explodes, and so does business for local beach vendors.
Alexandre Davido is a school caretaker who is on vacation with his family in a rented beach house.
I'm making some snacks to bring to the beach, frying some shrimp and some chicken. I'm going to fry up some sausage too.
After the 2016 parliamentary coup against Dilma Rousseff, the Brazilian government made it easier for employers to deny paid vacation to their workers. As a result, more people are vacationing closer to home this year, taking the bus instead of flying. For most of the year, Praia Grande has a population of 300,000, but in summer it swells to over 1 million. Its proximity to São Paulo and low prices have made it Brazil's 4th most popular vacation destination, and this year business is booming for the beach vendors.
This year things are a lot better. Last year the national crisis hurt us a lot.
It may not be the nation's most beautiful beach, but it's clean and its gentle waves make it relatively safe for children. Things might not be looking so bright for Brazil politically at the moment, but a sunny day on the beach with loved ones offers a chance for working-class Brazilians like Alexandre to forget about their problems and enjoy the best things that life has to offer.
I like Praia Grande because it's close to Sao Paulo. We can bring whatever we want to the beach. The prices are low and we can have fun somewhere nearby and inexpensive.
Brian Mir, Telesur, Praia Grande.
We'll be back very soon. Stay with us. Welcome back. Opposition leader Felix Tshisekedi has been sworn in as president of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The inauguration took place at the Palace of the Nation in the capital, Kinshasa. Tshisekedi takes over the helm from Joseph Kabila, who ruled the country for 18 years, succeeding his father, Laurent Desire Kabila. Zimbabwe's Human Rights Commission has accused security forces of systematic torture following last week's violent protests over a large fuel price hike. The commission says residents also reported indiscriminate shootings and severe beatings by armed soldiers. President Emerson Mnangagwa called the violence unacceptable.
And witnesses who spoke to the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission highlighted that armed soldiers and police visited their homes starting in the evening of Monday, 14 January 2019. They reported a heavy crackdown characterized by indiscriminate and severe beatings. Randi was the same in all the communities assessed by the Commission.
And those are the headlines, and we've come to the end of this news brief. For these and other stories, go to our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. For Telesur English, I am Estefania Bravo. Thank you for watching.